This is a topic that I've touched on in previous programs, but I think is worth mentioning again and going a little deeper into in this program. If you're already familiar with my newsletter and my programs, you know that I stress the importance of following up and really developing a good line of communication with whoever you're working with. This is really important in the music licensing business for a couple different reasons. I think the primary reason this is so important is that for whatever reason, for some reason, a lot of people that you work with in this business tend to be very busy. So communication is it's vital because if you put yourself in the shoes of a music publisher, for example, and they're getting lots of submissions, let's say they're getting several hundred submissions a week, which is fairly common, and maybe it's them and one or two other people pitching music, running this small publishing company. It's very easy to let communication slide. So it's really you should assume responsibility for communication in terms of following up with people and really trying to develop a good line of communication. So there's a couple different scenarios where this becomes really critical. One, for example, is when you submit your music initially. Let's say you submit your music to a publishing company and you wait 3 or 4 or 5 weeks and you don't hear anything back. I think a lot of musicians assume at this point that they're just not interested, and so there's no sort of follow up. There's no checking in to see to see what the status of their submission is. And this is a big mistake because a lot of times what happens is people are simply too busy and they might love your music, but maybe they've just forgotten to respond to you in a timely manner. So I always assume responsibility for being on top of communicating with whoever I'm working with. The second reason this is really important is even beyond your initial submission. Let's say, let's take another hypothetical. Let's say you sign with a company and the communication goes very smoothly and you sign 3 tracks, let's say, and 6 months goes by and you don't hear anything. Your tracks are just sitting in this catalog. Nothing has happened. Again, a lot of writers at this point don't do anything. There's no sort of effort to see what's going on with that company. And I think this is a mistake as well, because in some cases, they may have new opportunities and new submission opportunities that come up that you don't know about. Now, not all publishers will share all the projects they're working on with all the writers they work with, but the more you're in touch with someone on a regular basis, the more likely they are to think of you when things do come up. I, for example, with my music marketing company, Renegade Music Marketing, I pitch a lot of different artists to a lot of different companies. And a lot of times what happens is I'll initiate contact with a new company. I'll send them 10 artists, let's say, and I'll do this 2 or 3 times. And a lot of times what happens is those companies will start sending me different information about projects they're working on and specific styles of music they're looking for. So once you're sort of on someone's radar, it's much more likely that they're going to think of you and come to you for very specific opportunities. So again, you've probably already heard this information in terms of following up. I've certainly talked about it before, but I really want to stress the importance of doing this in this program because it really is sort of a more advanced way of approaching this business as opposed to someone who's just casually submitting music to a few places and not really proactively following up on those submissions. So really important, communicate with everybody, follow up if you don't hear back. And even if you do work and sign with a company, keep that line of communication open. It's really important. And I think you'll have a lot more success if you approach music licensing this way.